Back now with Wilmington Chief of Police Bobby Cummings. As we have this conversation, there are still protests going on across the country, specifically about policing in African American neighborhoods. There are many recommendations that are being put forward. Number one, that the department, the racial makeup of a department should match the racial makeup of a community. Do you agree with that, and is Wilmington there?
I think your police department should be representative of the community that you serve, yes.
Is Wilmington there?
We are not fully there, but we're making strides to get there.
Why is that important?
Well, it's important to have a relationship throughout the community in which you serve. We have different ethnic groups who live in our city. You have different income levels within our city. We have neighborhoods that are called by geographic area. So you need to have officers that represent those areas and can speak to the community in which they serve.
Because the second part of that, when you assume that's true, part of what you're saying is that a white officer in an African American neighborhood can't police as well because he's not of the same color.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that. What I'm saying is if you have a diverse police department and you have officers from every area, the officers themselves can learn from each other about the different neighborhoods in which they serve. So because you have an officer who lives in, we'll just say an African American neighborhood, and you have a white officer who services that area, if the officers, like we do, come internally and we teach each other about the different neighborhoods, when you go out to serve that community, you are aware of the issues that are occurring within that area. So then you can better serve the community. Doesn't matter, again, if you're black, white, or Hispanic, Asian, but again, you can build a better rapport in the communities.
Okay, so it's coming up from the neighborhoods, maybe more than the color of someone's skin.
Yes.
Moving on to number two, one of the other recommendations is this broken window policy, quality of life policy, the idea that you go after some of these lesser crimes and then you necessarily stop some of the bigger crimes from happening. I know one big proponent of this is Newcastle County Chief, the Colonel Elmer Setting.
Yes.
He is big into that policy. Do you agree it works, or does that have to be amended?
I agree that it can work, and there are different environments in which we police, and we do also look at quality of life issues along with other issues within the city, because we're in an urban setting that there are going to be other crime indicators that we need to look at. But that is one of the components that we look at when we do our Wednesday meetings and briefings. We talk about the quality of life issues, because if you deal with quality of life issues, you can impact some of the major crimes that will come out of that down the road.
Do we have to look at a different way of handling those crimes? That they, for instance, it came up because of the Eric Garner case,
yes,
because he was selling Lucy's on the street, which is not a violent crime and not a major crime, but he had been arrested 31 times before for that same crime. And so what people are doing is looking at that and say, did they have to get that violent for that kind of crime? And I think that's where it comes from. So do you think there has to be a different approach in dealing with lesser crimes?
Again, having background about either a particular individual or location in which you're serving gives you information about how to deal with the particular situation and or individual. Because someone is involved in petty crime, sometimes their actions after that kind of dictate how that confrontation is going to go. So to say that lesser crimes does not need to go to a force level, sometimes it's dictated by the environment and what's going on. So I can't say that there's a different way we need to handle them. It's just that if you do not deal with those situations, they can go into more violent
Right, I understand.
crimes.
I mean, there's police officers that are
Yes.
shot on traffic stops.
Yes.
So you have to assume every single time that this could turn bad, I would imagine.
We want officers to think of that, but we don't want that to be the forethought. We want them to deal with the situation at hand. And because if we're going into every situation thinking the worst, that every situation is going to turn out bad, then that getting into that confrontation when we stop someone, it's already bad.
And it could accelerate quickly.
Exactly.
From that moment. Stop and frisk also of people. There's many people that want to get rid of that completely. There's many departments and many chiefs across the country that defend it if it's done properly. Where
Absolutely.
do you stand?
If it's done properly within the constitutional laws, then I think it's fine.
So stop and frisk is okay. Last one, and it's the last big recommendation, that many people want to take these high-profile cases when they involve, especially involve police shootings, away from district attorneys, because they said the district attorneys necessarily are close with the police department and depend on them to build cases, and they may not go after those cases as vigorously as other cases, and they want to bring in a special prosecutor. Good idea or bad idea?
I've really not given that one a lot of thought yet. However, like I said, we deal with our prosecutors on a daily basis. They are aware of the laws that surround how we operate, as well as some of the defense attorneys who are aware of how we operate on a daily basis. And we just have to make sure that the system stays fair, impartial, and that they listen to the evidence that's being presented.
You don't believe that a district attorney that you deal with a lot and your department deals with a lot would have a conflict in then taking your case to a grand jury?
And again, there's just so much that goes into this.
No, I understand. It's a difficult question.
Yes.
I know many of the police unions and police chief associations and the police are against this idea, but the cynical part of a lot of people are saying because they've done so well under this system so far, and there haven't been a lot of charges brought. So I'm not going to put you on the spot anymore about it, because I understand that you're getting this for the first time. But I think a lot of people would like to see that of all the recommendations, that's an easy one to remove a conflict of interest. I want to wrap it up with you when we come back, just to talk about the coming year and what the citizens of Wilmington and all of us in the area can expect from you in this coming year, when we come right back with the Wilmington Chief of Police.